And if they didn't deduct points for...
Welcome back to Recap IT. Today we are going to recap a 2009 romantic comedy movie titled Fired Up. After overhearing a talk about the camp's 300 female cheerleaders, Nick and Sean, two popular football players, quit summer football camp and join a cheerleading camp. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to this channel. Now without wasting any further time, let's begin, shall we? Our movie begins with two best friends, Nick and Sean, having the time of their lives with some random chicks, until both of the girls' fathers walk up at their house. As a result, they flee before they can be apprehended, ending up at an all-girls pool party where they perceive an opportunity to meet more girls. Nick and Sean are invited to a campfire by a girl named Maddie the next day at school. Their football coach, on the other hand, informs them that they will be away for 2 weeks for football camp. Nick and Sean, of course, would like to spend more time hooking up with women. Nick and Sean overhear the cheerleaders discussing about heading to a cheerleader camp with 300 girls later that night at the bonfire. Nick then determines that they should attend the cheer camp in order to compete against all of the naive girls. Sean isn't thrilled about the prospect of skipping football camp, but Nick convinces him that the only reason they're on the squad is to hook up with ladies. As a result, the males realize that they can reportedly try out for the cheer team because a mixed group is permitted. As a result, they agree to try out for the team. The next night, Sean approaches his sister, Poppy, about teaching them some cheerleading movements in order to pass their tryouts. Nonetheless, when she makes a bargain with Sean to exchange rooms, she agrees to help. Poppy has Sean and Nick do a stunt the next morning as she spots the school's cheerleaders passing by. They're obviously impressed with how they got it right the first time. However, they try to hide it so that Carly, the team's captain, isn't suspicious. However, subsequently, when she and the rest of the team talk, she expresses her concerns about how she doesn't trust that the two popular jocks suddenly want to be cheerleaders. Despite this, the remainder of the squad informs her that they are unable to compete due to a lack of players. As a result, they inform her that their coach will make the final decision. After a few days, the team's coach is pleased with the plan, despite Carly's reservations. As a result, they are quickly accepted into the squad. However, before they depart for camp, they tell their football coach a few lies in order to avoid having to go to football camp. They then decide to stay for only 2 weeks rather than 3. Nick and Sean arrive to the camp a few hours later, speechless at the quantity of stunning girls they're seeing. They then try to get to know a woman named Diora, but she cuts them off, dismissing their courting attempts, and they decide to check out the dorm room they're sharing with other people. The next day, Sean and Nick are introduced to the camp's leader, Keith, when they discover that he is married to Diora. They begin seeking for other girls throughout the day after realizing she is unavailable. Nick and Sean are getting along with more than one girl at a time over the following few days, and they're growing better at performing more stunts. This, however, attracts the notice of Gineth, the Panthers captain. Nick, on the other hand, is dead set on sleeping with Diora. Carly, on the other hand, tells Sean that the squad has been developing since they arrived. Sean is taken aback when Carly's boyfriend, Rick, shows up, despite the fact that they're having a good time. Sean appears to be threatened by him, as evidenced by his demeanor. Anyway, Rick informs Carly that he's going on a date with her and then drives away. The next morning, Sean is still enraged that Carly has a boyfriend. Sean informs Nick that he can have any lady he wants, despite Nick's assurances that she is unlike any of the other girls they've met. So Nick arranges for the rest of the team to go swimming at the lake to cheer up Sean. After that, the lads had a good time hooking up with a couple cheerleaders. They discover, however, that their clothing are missing, and they must return to their quarters naked. They do, however, run into Keith, who they must lie to about where they've been, claiming that they've been practicing. As a result, Keith has them practice their stunts while completely naked. Sean tells Nick the next night that he's done hooking up with several girls because he feels bad about what he's doing to Carly. However, he notices Rick approaching and overhears him confessing to have cheated on Carly and that he's only with her because his parents approve of her. So Nick attempts to persuade him to leave it alone. But as Sean notices Carly approaching from behind, he dashes over to tell her what he's heard. Rick, however, stops them in order to remove her away from him. The next day during practice, Sean tries to spend more time with Carly, while Nick continues to try, but fails, to get into Diora's pants. Carly and Sean, on the other hand, are becoming closer as time goes on. However, a few days later, Nick informs him that their time at the camp is ended, and that he has bus tickets that leave in an hour, so they must depart. Sean, desperate, tells him that he wants more time with Carly. Fortunately, he persuades Nick to stay until the competition is completed. Sean expresses his gratitude to Nick for allowing him to have a chance with Carly. The remainder of the team's morale is down in the gym as they understand they aren't as good as the Panthers. Then Sean warns them they're lacking in confidence. His speech provides them the push they need, and they are more motivated to complete the rest of their practice. Carly is clearly pleased with Sean's ability to deal with her team's issues. The team learns Sean's words by heart the next day, and it shows during practice. Unfortunately, Rick arrives with his companions, having learned of their true plans from one of their housemates, Brewster. He then informs them he found out about the bus tickets they have in their room, as though they were planning to leave before the championship. Hurt, Carly recognizes that her assumptions about them were correct, but she had hoped they were more interested in cheering than hooking up with girls. Sean tries to explain how he changed to her, but she refuses to listen. Brewster rushes in, as if on cue, to apologize for letting Rick into their room. They then discover that Rick possesses Nick's diary, which he begins to read aloud in front of the group, revealing that he has a crush on Deora. Deora, on the other hand, seemed to enjoy it. Sean and Nick have to leave a few hours later to avoid further disgrace. They go to a friend's house to cheer themselves up, but they can't stop thinking about what occurred and how much they miss their team. Nick is saddened when he recalls that the championship is the next day. Both men are adamant that they must make amends for what they have done. So they return to the camp, with Sean attempting to excuse his actions to Carly. Finally, Carly chooses to forgive them solely for the sake of the team. Deora ultimately decides to give Nick a chance with her on the day of the championship, and tells him to meet her afterwards. Carly confronts Sean for harming her a little later, while all the teams are getting ready. He then apologizes and promises to make it up to her. Following that, Carly's team tries their hardest to put on a good show. Carly notices Rick making out with Jenneth in the middle of their performance. She decides to execute a daring stunt with Sean because she is determined. Despite her concerns, he assures her that everything will work out. Fortunately, the stunt goes off without a hitch. Sean, on the other hand, passes out after falling into the water while executing a backflip. After a while, Sean is awakened by Carly, who informs him that they may have made it into the top 10. Carly begins kissing Sean with pride, but Rick interrupts them and accuses her of cheating. She's fed up and tells him she's breaking up with him despite seeing him with Jenneth. When he tries to strike Sean, though, Nick accidentally takes it for him. As a result, Carly begins dating Sean, who appears to be the only person who cares about her. Finally, she expresses her gratitude to him for joining the team in support of her. She kisses him passionately, and when they've had their time, Nick enters their conversation so they can all depart together. And this is where the movie ends. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, until next time.